What is an unfortunate reality with work from home nobody talks about? The lack of respect and the prevalence of passive comments from in-laws can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you're working from home and putting in more hours than a standard job. This can be particularly challenging when life feels chaotic. It can create an environment where your efforts are undervalued and your situation is misunderstood, leading to hurtful interactions that worsen the stress of daily life. For example, there was a situation involving my father-in-law that really highlighted this lack of respect. He recognized that I was overwhelmed and offered to take the kids to the park for a few hours, which I genuinely appreciated. I saw this as a perfect opportunity to catch up on work without distractions. However, upon returning home, he seemed mad about the state of my home. He took it upon himself to critique the laundry and dishes, which hadn't been done during the couple of hours he was gone. His demeanor spoke volumes. He wore a tight expression and was mostly silent with me, and later he called my husband to express that he wouldn't be watching our children anymore because he perceived me as lazy. This reaction was disheartening, particularly because it came at a time when I was genuinely trying to manage my work alongside parenting. Another incident with my mother-in-law added to the frustration. During one of the rare heart-to-heart conversations we've had, conversations that I cherish because they're few and far between, she asked me if I ever felt like the black sheep of the family due to my housekeeping standards. This comment caught me off guard and felt personal. To clarify, my house is in decent shape. It's just that with 3 kids, things can be a bit messy, and I may occasionally fall behind in chores. My family does just fine financially. We earn enough to survive, but not enough to cover the costs of daycare. The reality is that I'm juggling work and managing the household, which can lead to some disorganization. It's important to note that my husband doesn't contribute much to household chores, and I don't hold that against him. We each have our own roles and responsibilities. However, what I do wish for is a sense of respect from my in-laws regarding the amount of work I do. I work long hours to support a family while also running the household. Despite the challenges, I believe I do a pretty good job of keeping up with the numerous responsibilities that have been piled on me. It can feel discouraging when my efforts go unrecognized or are met with criticism instead of understanding. I strive to communicate my needs clearly, but the side comments can undermine my confidence and add to my stress. It's essential for families to cultivate mutual respect and support, especially when balancing the complexities of work and home life. I hope for a future where my contributions, both in my professional life and as a caregiver, are acknowledged and appreciated. Her mother-in-law has mastered the art of annoying her. Story 2. I find myself struggling with motivation these days. It raises so many questions. Why should I get up earlier than necessary? What's the point of getting dressed in the morning if no one is going to see me? Why even bother to brush my teeth? Why do anything at all when I could just roll out of bed and start my day in pajamas? The lack of urgency that comes from working from home makes it easy to fall into a routine of laziness. Each day feels like a repetition of the last, and I often wonder if I'm even accomplishing anything worthwhile. The blurred lines between my work and personal life have become increasingly frustrating. There's nothing stopping me from throwing in a load of laundry while I'm supposed to be working, which might sound convenient, but it just adds to my sense of chaos. On the flip side, there's also nothing preventing my boss from interrupting my downtime, asking me to grab files or attend to work-related matters during what should be my off hours. This constant work leaves me feeling drained, as I can't seem to carve out dedicated time for myself anymore. Working from home can be isolating, and it really takes a toll on my social skills. The absence of casual conversations with colleagues or those brief, friendly interactions that used to brighten my day leaves me feeling lonely. I miss the small talk over coffee breaks or the camaraderie that comes with sharing a workplace. It's disheartening to realize how much I took those interactions for granted and how much they contributed to my overall sense of belonging. When I was in the office, my supervisors were laid back, which granted me a lot of freedom in how I approached my tasks. Many of my responsibilities required me to move around, whether I was attending meetings in different rooms or collaborating with teammates face-to-face. Transitioning to working from home forced me to abandon those tasks entirely, making my daily routine feel suffocated and stagnant. Other than sneaking in some laundry breaks that I knew were technically against the rules, I found myself with no legitimate reasons to get up and do anything. The move to remote work also meant sacrificing my spacious, organized workspace for a cramped, cluttered desk at home, which only amplified my frustration. As places began to open back up, the reality of working from home felt more like a sanction. I could finally step outside and enjoy the world again, yet I was confined to my home for 40 hours a week, which felt unfair. On a personal note, I actually enjoy my commute. It's a brief 10-minute drive through a picturesque area of town, and traffic is rarely a concern unless I happen to leave late. That little window of time feels like the start of an adventure, even if it's just a trip to work. It was a moment to gather my thoughts, listen to music, or just enjoy the scenery. Now that commute is gone, and I miss that transitional space between home and work. It's as if I've lost a small but significant part of my day that helped me shift my mindset from home life to work mode. Story 3. Not everyone is fortunate enough to live in a sprawling 3,000 square foot house with a yard nestled in the peaceful countryside, even if they have the flexibility to work from home. While some people might envision rural living as the standard, the reality for many is quite different. For instance, there are various reasons why individuals and couples may choose to be required to reside in a bustling urban environment. The cultural attractions, diverse dining options, and social opportunities can make urban living appealing, but it often comes with its own set of challenges. Living in a city typically means smaller living spaces, often in apartments or condominiums, where the walls are thinner and the noise levels are higher. This can create a unique set of difficulties, particularly for couples who both work from home and find themselves needing to attend virtual meetings simultaneously. In a one-bedroom apartment, trying to conduct a professional video call while your partner is doing the same can quickly become complicated. It's all too easy to accidentally pick up each other's audio, leading to interruptions. To avoid this, soundproof booths have gained popularity among remote workers, providing a dedicated space to minimize distractions and maintain professionalism during calls. Moreover, city life comes with its own set of noise ordinances, which often assume that residents are out and about during the day. However, for those who work from home, this assumption can be problematic. The relentless sounds of construction across the street can be disruptive when you're trying to maintain focus during a Zoom meeting or important presentation. The beeping of machinery, the clattering of tools, and the chatter of workers can easily drown out your voice. Story 4. It's honestly very sad. I've been working from home 100% of the time for the entire time, and my wife has been in the same boat. While it's nice to see each other all day, every day, it's not exactly great for our relationship. The added challenge is that we had a baby during 2020, which means our ability to get out and about after work hours is limited. This has only worsened our situation, as we find ourselves stuck in a cycle that feels boring. Every day seems to blend into the next, like some kind of never-ending episode of Groundhog Day. To make things worse, my hygiene has taken a toll. Showering doesn't feel as necessary when you're not leaving the house. I used to shower every day without fail, but now it's more like 2 or 3 times a week. Some days I barely move at all. My routine has shrunk to just going from the bedroom to the office, then to the kitchen to eat and back to my desk. Thankfully, I haven't gained any weight, but I feel weak. It doesn't help that it's the heart of January and the temperature outside is 10 degrees. I used to take daily walks to break the workday, but now even that feels daunting. What used to be my man cave and sanctuary for the rest has become my office, getting rid of the sense of peace I once felt in that room. I used to spend hours playing PC games, but now I hardly step foot in my office unless it's for work. It feels more like a prison than a place for relaxation. Instead, I've returned to console gaming so I can play on the TV in the living room. However, even that has changed. I only managed to play one video game in 2021, compared to about 20 in 2020, mostly due to the demands of being a new father. We moved away from the city to get a bigger place and pay less in rent, but I would desperately go back to 2019. I miss the days when I used to walk a mile to the train station, cramming myself into a packed train with 100 other people. I long for the simple life of going out to lunch with coworkers, being taken to dinner by vendors, or just having a reason to go somewhere outside my home. More than anything, I miss having relationships with anyone other than my wife and staring at a handful of screens all day. The isolation is starting to take its toll on me, and I can't help but feel like a deep yearning for the social connections and simple life I once took for granted. Story 5. This is why it's essential to establish clear boundaries to delineate between work and home life. In our current work environment, my employer has embraced remote work. Having already closed one office building and showing no immediate plans to require us to return to the office, this means we will likely be working from home for the foreseeable future. As I approach the 2-year mark of working from home on March 16th, I recognize how important it has been to implement certain practices that facilitate this transition. Beyond the rule of refraining from reading or responding to work emails, texts, and other communications after working hours, I've established a personal practice that significantly enhances my work from home experience. Each morning, I make it a point to don a uniform at the start of my workday and take it off when my work is done. This practice serves as a dual purpose. Not only does it allow me to present a more professional appearance during Zoom and Teams meetings, but it also provides a physical signal that clearly delineates my work time from my personal time. The simple act of changing a garment has become an important psychological cue for me, allowing me to shift my mindset from I'm at work to I'm at home. I also engage in specific activities that mark the transition between work and home. In the mornings, after I put on my uniform, I make a comforting cup of coffee, which has become an integral part of my routine. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee signals the start of my workday, helping to set a focused tone for the tasks ahead. When I've reached the end of my workday, Often dictated by my flexible hours, I make a conscious effort to leave my workspace. I walk to the bedroom, change my shirt to signify the end of my work hours, and then engage in activities that allow me to step away from the computer for a while. Whether it's diving into a good book, taking my dog for a walk, or tidying up the kitchen, these actions help create a clear boundary between my work time and my home life. Spending long hours in front of my computer is a common occurrence, and I find it all too easy to slip into after-hours activities such as gaming or scrolling. To balance this habit, I've made it a point to incorporate non-screen related activities into my post-work routine. Engaging in these offline pursuits not only helps break the boredom of being glued to a screen all day, but also rejuvenates my mind and spirit, allowing me to transition more smoothly into my home life. I consider myself fortunate that my work preferences align well with my remote situation. Having spent 38 years as a developer, I've grown accustomed to working independently, and I genuinely don't miss the hustle and bustle of the office environment. Additionally, my wife also works from home, providing me with companionship throughout the day. However, I'm aware that not everyone shares this experience. I have friends who live alone and are more extroverted than I am, and I know that the challenges of remote work have been tougher for them. Recognizing this, my team has made a concerted effort to check in on one another regularly. We're prioritizing maintaining our connections through virtual face-to-face meetings and, when possible, in-person coffee meetups and breakfasts, ensuring that no one feels isolated or disconnected. By establishing boundaries and habits that promote a healthy work-life balance, I've found ways to thrive in this remote work setting. It's these small but significant practices that help me navigate the challenges of working from home, ultimately enhancing both my productivity and my well-being. Story 6. The lack of social interaction is actually really tiresome. Although I consider myself introverted and usually find socializing to be draining for a while, I've come to realize just how much I value those brief moments of connection throughout the day. For a couple of hours, I can manage just fine on my own, but I genuinely miss my lunches with my coworkers. Those meals were more than just a break from work. They were opportunities to share stories, laugh, and build relationships outside of our former roles. I miss the camaraderie that came from discussing our weekends or sharing a joke over a meal. Another significant downside is the lack of networking opportunities. In the past, I would frequently run into higher-ranking colleagues in the break room or on the elevator, allowing for organic conversations that could lead to valuable connections. Those chats often provided insights into the company and opened doors to potential mentorship. Now I find myself isolated, completely detached from those interactions. I don't even know half of the coordinators who would be on the same floor as me. This has made it challenging to stay in the loop and feel integrated into the team, not to mention the missed opportunities for professional growth. To add to this, my new neighbors seem to think they live in a group house, blasting music at all hours of the day. The volume is distracting, making it difficult to concentrate on my work. It's frustrating to have to compete with their noise while trying to focus on tasks that require deep concentration. I filed a report against them, and I can only hope that something is done to address the situation soon. But the truth is, this would not be concerned if I didn't have to work from home 4 days a week. If I were in the office, I wouldn't have to deal with this constant disruption, and my work environment would be more favorable to productivity. And then there's my cat. It seems to have developed a habit of yowling for attention right as my weekly virtual check-ins with my supervisor start. It's as if she knows the exact moment when I'm about to dive into an important conversation and decides that's the perfect time to demand affection. The timing couldn't be worse. While I love her dearly, it can be quite embarrassing when I have to explain to my supervisor. This adds yet another layer of chaos to my work-from-home experience, making it all the more challenging to maintain a professional atmosphere. Story 7. My job is project-based, which has shaped my entire career, allowing me to work remotely for as long as I can remember. From the very beginning, the nature of my work has meant that I'm frequently available 24/7. This flexibility has enabled me to be reachable and perform tasks from virtually anywhere at any time, adapting to the demands of my projects and client needs. Fortunately, the company has embraced this remote work model for almost a century, leading to a culture where executives and employees have developed reasonable expectations regarding acceptable work hours. However, the recent push for widespread remote work has transitioned many employees into this new scenario without the structure that typically accompanies such arrangements. While I've been able to navigate the complexities of my remote work effectively, many of my colleagues have found themselves thrust into this environment, often lacking the guidance and boundaries that are important for maintaining a work-life balance. Nowadays, nearly everyone has the infrastructure needed to work at peak efficiency from home, complete with reliable internet connections and direct lines to their home office. This technological advancement has made it easier for teams to collaborate and communicate, but it has also blurred the lines between work and personal time. Many individuals perceive working from home as an opportunity for looser hours and a more flexible schedule. While this can be true for some, it has also led to outcomes. Supervisors who may have previously felt hindered by traditional office hours now have the ability to reach out to their employees at any time, fully aware that their requests can often be fulfilled remotely. This shift has created an environment where the expectations for availability can sometimes feel overwhelming. Even if employees believe that their roles do not inherently require overtime, the reality is that the accessibility allows those who tend to go above and beyond to exert more influence over the work culture. As a result, this introduces pressure for employees to always be responsive to requests, regardless of the time of day. This constant availability can lead to feelings of burnout and stress, as individuals grapple with the need to balance their professional obligations with personal responsibilities. It creates a scenario where employees may feel compelled to prioritize work over their own well-being, often sacrificing their downtime to accommodate the demands of their supervisors or projects. They've realized that while remote work sounds like a dream, it often turns into a never-ending episode of "I need a break." Story 8. I've worked from home for the past 5 years, and during this time, I've noticed a few significant patterns and challenges that come with remote work. First, there's a common misconception that working from home means your time is less important than other schedules. This has been a persistent concern for me. I can't count the number of times I've been stood up or had appointments changed or canceled at the last minute by service providers, including deliveries, installations, plumbers, painters, and various home contractors. It became a frustrating norm. I remember one particular incident when I took the day off work to meet a contractor for a home repair, only to have them reschedule at the last minute without any real explanation. After a couple of years of dealing with this, I made a decision to stop announcing that I work from home. Instead, I started telling service providers that I was taking off work to meet them at my house. Interestingly, there is a noticeable shift in how they respected my time. Suddenly, I was treated as if my schedule held value, and my appointments were more likely to be honored. Another challenge I've faced is the difficulty of separating work life from personal life. When your office is situated within your home, it becomes all too easy to feel like you're at work 24/7. These boundaries were one of the hardest habits for me to break, and I still grapple with it at times. Even after I took my work email off my phone to limit the distractions, I found myself falling back into the pattern of checking my work-related tasks at the most inconvenient times. I could close and lock my office doors after hours, but the temptation to just pop in and double-check if I returned so-and-so's email can strike at the most unexpected moments, like 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. The attempt of getting just a little bit more can be engaging, but it often leads to feelings of burnout and a lack of balance. On top of that, I have ADHD, which adds another layer of complexity to my work-from-home experience. There are days when I suddenly realize I've been sitting on the couch for 4 hours without accomplishing anything. It's astonishing how quickly time can slip away. I might start with the intention of focusing on work, only to find myself scrolling through social media or getting distracted by various household tasks. When I finally snap out of it, I'll often jump into cleaning the house, thinking that at least I'm being productive in some way. However, this can lead to another 2 hours passing without touching my tasks. Eventually, I find myself thinking, well, I guess I'll just take the day off today. It's a frustrating cycle and makes it difficult to maintain consistency and productivity. Over the years, I've had to develop strategies to maintain these challenges effectively. Setting clear boundaries is important. I've learned to create a designated workspace that helps me separate my professional life from my personal life. Additionally, I've started using a planner to allocate specific times for work tasks, household chores, and personal time. This helps keep me accountable and focused. I also try to schedule breaks to ensure I step away from my desk, allowing myself to recharge mentally and physically. With all of these, working from home presents its own unique set of challenges, but it also offers flexibility and the opportunity to create a personalized work environment. By acknowledging the difficulties and actively working to establish boundaries, despite the hurdles, I continue to adapt and find ways to thrive in this setting. Anyways, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 9. I've been working from home for 1.5 years, and honestly, I love everything about it. It took a lot of the stress out of the recent snowstorm since I didn't have to drive. I love being able to wear my pajama pants all day, being able to let dogs out, not having to deal with people in person. I feel like the money I spend in my house is worth it because I actually live in my house now. I spend more time here than outside, and I'm not stressed when I'm at home. Coming home tired or stressed from work, then waking up to hurry and get ready to leave. My entire life is more relaxed. I could make more money somewhere else, but I'm not willing to give up working from home. Story 10. I just had to dismiss my mother-in-law from watching my toddler while I was working from home, and let me tell you, it was a difficult decision but necessary. The arrangement started with good intentions, but it quickly turned into a source of stress rather than support. While I was trying to focus on my work, my mother-in-law would be in the living room with my toddler, and I could hear her making side comments about me. She would say things like, "I do nothing all day but sit in front of the computer and not clean up my toddler's mess." This was particularly frustrating because I make it a point to clean the house every morning before I start my workday. It's a routine that I value, as it helps create a more organized environment for both me and my child. Yet her constant criticisms undermined the effort I put into maintaining our home. What's more, she would often compare herself to me, recounting her own experiences of being a hard worker back in the day when she managed the fruit aisle at a grocery store. She would talk about how she never complained and how working hard was a badge of honor for her. I couldn't help but feel like she was belittling my own hard work. The truth is, working from home can be incredibly demanding, especially in my role as a finance manager, which involves high-stress responsibilities and the need to make quick strategic decisions. It didn't help that she would frequently tell me that I should be outside enjoying the nice weather instead of being in front of my computer. It felt as if she couldn't grasp the reality of my job, dismissing it as petty simply because I wasn't in a traditional office setting. Calling me lazy was the last straw. It stung deeply, especially coming from someone I hoped would be supportive. During important meetings, she would come up to me with questions, asking about this and that. It was so annoying. I had to shush her at times to maintain my focus. If I didn't give her the attention she wants, she would get angry and call me rude for trying to keep my work life separate from her home life. The lack of respect for my professional obligations was incredibly frustrating, and it made it clear that the arrangement was not working for me. Some people think that sitting in front of a computer isn't really working, but they couldn't be more mistaken. My job requires concentration, critical thinking, and long hours of dedication, and I deserve to be taken seriously. Now I'm focusing on finding a more reliable childcare solution that respects my work boundaries and allows me to excel in my professional role without the added stress of constant criticism or distraction. It's a relief to reclaim my space and create a more positive environment for both my child and myself. Story 11. Not exactly working from home, but during the online school phase that occurred during 2020, I noticed several changes in my experience as a student. One of the most striking things was how much more challenging it became to manage my ADHD. In a typical school environment, there's something about being physically present in a classroom that helps me focus on schoolwork. The structured setting, the routine of getting up, getting dressed, and commuting to school, all of these factors contribute to a mindset that is more conducive to learning. But when I found myself at home, everything became difficult to concentrate on. The distractions were endless. The temptation to scroll through my phone, the noise from other family members, and even just the comfort of my bed calling me to take a nap. On top of that, being at home meant my classmates weren't around for me to ask questions or bounce ideas. I missed the environment where we could help each other stay on task. Without my friends there to motivate me, I found myself procrastinating more than ever. It became a cycle where I would delay starting my assignments and then the stress of falling behind would strike, making it even more difficult to focus. The struggle to keep up with my schoolwork turned into a constant battle against my own distractions. And then there was the psychological well-being aspect. Sadness started sneaking its way in, something I had never really struggled with before 2020. Prior to this experience, I felt like I had a good handle on my emotions and psychological well-being. But after spending extended periods in quarantine, attending school from home and not being able to see the people I would normally interact with every day, I began to feel isolated and down. I started to miss the simple joys of chatting with friends between classes, laughing over lunch, and just having those spontaneous conversations that lift your spirits. During this time, I was also juggling a job that was incredibly stressful, and the combination of being stuck at home and dealing with that pressure took a serious toll on my health. As if that wasn't enough, I realized that I was saying goodbye to my social skills. All the time spent without interacting face-to-face with others began to catch up with me. I noticed that my ability to engage in conversations was slipping away. When I did have the chance to talk to someone, I felt awkward and out of practice. The longer I was away from my friends and peers, the more difficult it became to reconnect. Even simple social interaction started to feel intimidating, and I worried that it would take time to regain my confidence in social situations. Overall, the online school phase during 2020 was a challenging period that highlighted how vital structure, social interaction, and psychological health support are for students. I learned that while technology allows us to continue our education, it can never fully replicate the benefits of being in a physical classroom with our peers and teachers. The experience forced me to rethink how I approach learning, self-care, and socializing in a world that had changed. Story 12. I've been working from home for 15 years, and there's a few things that are common. The biggest thing I've found is that most people get distracted too easily. If there's a TV in the room, they'd rather watch it than work. Same for social media. Facebook and Twitter are a huge waste of time. Scheduling and planning your days, a lot of people have problems with that. The biggest challenge is needing plenty of work to stay busy. If I have only 1 or 2 tasks for the day, I might procrastinate and push them to tomorrow. This has sometimes forced me to scramble to complete projects I've delayed. Now I have a rule. If it's in my calendar, it must be done. No rescheduling allowed. This approach works for me. Story 13. That there are real limitations depending on the sort of person you are and how big of a place you own. My wife and I lived in a 1,200 square foot house at the beginning of 2020. She started working from home. She worked basically in her dining room. There was no difference between her work life and her home life, and it really took a toll on her. She felt super trapped. Then, in July of last year, we bought a bigger house in anticipation of her family growing. She has an office now. It's in a room with doors that she can use from the rest of the house. So she gets up, has breakfast, and goes into her office for the whole workday, save for lunch, and roams around the neighborhood when she needs to stretch her legs. And she's much happier. But that's because we have a pretty big house with spare rooms and a full office setup. If she was just working from the couch or from the kitchen all day, she would have gone insane now. People who live in small apartments where they can't separate work from home have it really difficult. Also, when she was done with work, she could immediately be social with me, talk about her day so she didn't really feel alone. Anyone living in an apartment by themselves, it must be very isolating to work from home all the time. Story 14. Working remotely is not the vacation many people seem to believe it is. I've been a remote worker since Friday, March 13th of 2020. Yes, I remember the specific day because it started a too-long struggle with sadness and anxiety. Any semblance I had of work or life balance was completely erased. It was already a struggle, and my boss routinely referred to me and my teammate as his white helpers, expecting us to be always on call. But being moved to the house made that exponentially worse. It's like, since I'm always at home, I'm basically always on call for work. To this day, I still get calls all hours of the night and weekends. It's like they think I'm sitting at my desk around the clock just waiting for their call. Other people, both from within and outside my department, seem to think working from home is some kind of vacation. Like, all I do is lounge around in my garments all day, occasionally picking up the phone or doing something in the computer. I now spend probably 20 to 30% more time working now than I did when I was physically in the office. The merging of my work and play spaces has been a major problem. My largest hobby revolves around video games, particularly PC gaming, but for the past 2 years, my play space has been my workspace. And at the end of the day, I don't want to keep sitting on any of the desks I've been at all day to play a game. I've tried picking up other hobbies, but it's been difficult. I found a couple I've enjoyed, but finding the money to do them has been a key hurdle. I still find some time to play here and there, but it's always a challenge. And I often realize midway through that I'm not really enjoying it, and I don't have the money to purchase another full PC to set up a separate space for work. I'm generally a grumpy person, with a negative outlook on people in general. I enjoy being around certain people, including a few at work, so being cut off from them, as well as my friends and family, for long stretches when things flare up has been a challenge. We've started doing what essentially amounts to day-long group Google Meet calls between me and my teammates, and that's often the only social interaction I have with anyone outside of my household throughout the week. I didn't realize how important those interactions were. As a person who is generally disgusted by humanity and its constantly lowering standards, it was a shock to learn that I needed that. All of these things led to a long spiral into what was probably the cause of sadness I've experienced, and this is after struggling with it in general since childhood. I found myself not leaving the house for days. I'd swing between consuming too much and skipping meals entirely. I wouldn't shower for several days. Worst thing is, I realized what was happening, but it just made me feel worse about myself, which led to the first thoughts I've had anywhere. I found myself thinking about how my family would be better off without the burdens I presented, that things would just be better for everyone if I weren't around. I began therapy in early summer last year and started seeing a psychiatrist who has me on an intriguing medication regimen. That's already yielding some small but noticeable results. However, the journey has been long and fraught with darkness. Story 15. The anxiety your pets develop as they become super used to you always being home with them. Your boss and coworkers have little idea of the work you're doing and the emotional state you're in, so it's difficult to regulate your workload. Not even being aware of in-office events, especially if everyone is getting off early for someone's retirement or whatever, and you're still working and wondering why no one is reasoning to chat. Good luck on never getting promoted or a bonus. Meetings where most of the folks are in the office and they don't have cams on, so you miss the social cues and perhaps laugh awkwardly at what you thought was sarcasm. Rushing to clean yourself without notice for a surprise meeting with C-levels in the main conference room that you were literally dropped in. since you're the expert for a question that could have waited. Your car isn't being used as much, leading to seal failures. I could elaborate further. I've been working from home for over 4 years now. While I'm not a fan of it, I don't want to relocate. And given where I am in my career, most positions are remote. Story 16. Many factors contribute to effective remote work, but a key point is that not everyone can do it. Some individuals need a change of scenery and a distinct location to focus. They struggle to mentally separate work from home. Establishing routines is important. You shouldn't simply roll out of bed and start working. Mindset adjustment is necessary. Transitioning from work to home life is also important. Unlike commuting to an office, walking to another room at home makes it harder to switch off work mode. To successfully work from home, it's essential to be in the right state. Since 2005, my routines have included making coffee and breakfast in the morning and cleaning my workspace at night. I catch up on the news in the morning and prepare to spend time with my family in the evening. These bookends help delineate the start and end of my workday, which is vital for maintaining balance. Working from home is like being a superhero. You work in your pajamas, save on commuting time, and face off distractions. Story 17. I haven't encountered any of the problems mentioned regarding working from home. My only concern is that it can amplify some of my lazy tendencies, which is more about personal discipline than anything else. Some tips to address some of the challenge I see here. Gaining weight. Working from home has actually helped me control my diet. Instead of packing a subpar meal or grabbing fast food, I can prepare what I plan to eat. I've lost 60 pounds this past year. Lacking exercise? Save on gas money and invest in workout equipment like dumbbells or a stationary bike. There are plenty of exercises you can do without any equipment too. Take a walk during your lunch break. Do squats between meetings or use a pedal machine under your desk. While exercise has its benefits, actively participating in your health yields much better long-term results. Losing social contact? I only engage in social interactions I choose, which has improved my social life immensely. I no longer deal with office drama and have made new friends in the past year. Plus, I can go out immediately after work without having to go home and get ready. Blurred lines between work and home? Compartmentalize your workplace. Avoid working in your bedroom or on your couch. I have my workstation in a separate room, and when I leave at 5, I rarely return. I have no trouble leaving work behind. Story 18. I'd say collective emotional well-being is standing at the lowest point most of us have ever seen. Usually, with some tragedy comes unity, and comes motivation to fix the problem. With this one, everyone's just sad without a point we can all come together behind. When it's a man versus nature, there are no victors, not even a real argument. Sometimes it's the battles we choose to face that help us stay afloat when disaster strikes. At first, working from home seemed like a breeze to everyone, and the vast majority couldn't be more pleased with the idea of working from home or remotely. Of course, to some, work is an escape, and that point doesn't need any explanation. But for just about everyone, the cabin fever started to eat away our sanity. Emotional well-being can be enough of a problem for people with entire networks of support. When the entire network starts to suffer, it becomes a lot difficult for anyone to get help. Story 19. The commute used to give me time to read in the metro, but over the past 2 years, I've read much less because I struggle to find the time. I'm also buying more toilet paper and cleaning the toilet more often. Previously, my commute provided access to various exercise studios and gyms through ClassPass, along with walking to and from the station. Now my cholesterol is spiking despite my eating habits remaining the same, likely due to the lack of exercise. As an introvert with social anxiety, I forced myself to engage socially at work to improve my skills. Even though I had the option to telework before 2020, I avoided it to prevent regression. In hindsight, that worry was justified. I've also had arguments with my family due to being in the same place constantly. Story 20. I only worked from home for about a week before that option ended, and my new job has never allowed it. With my ADHD, that week was the worst in my career. I lost my focus, which signals now I go to work for me. Part of going to work is physically leaving the house. Otherwise, I can't get into the right headspace. This has been a lifelong pattern. In grade school, I did homework in a specific chair at the table, and in college, I studied at the library to help focus. Once I'm home, I feel at home, and any tasks I complete are personal ones. I never took online classes for this reason, and I truly sympathize with students forced into that situation. My dad, who also has ADHD, experienced similar challenges before retiring a few months ago. Working at the same desk at his personal computer, even when I was off, was difficult. Even after he started dressing for work and following his morning routine before going downstairs, he still struggled to focus because he hadn't flipped that focus. Story 21. This isn't just work from home, it's a work from home experiment during a global health emergency that has disrupted communal activities like birthdays and parties. If it were simply remote work, the challenge in this thread would be manageable. Most of my usual outlets are closed or impractical right now. My child has missed half of the school days, and babysitters are either unavailable or demand pay on top of school fees. It's impossible to juggle a toddler and complete my work in 8 hours. I've been stuck working 12-hour days for years without relief. Recently, the school canceled all their weekly summer camps, and I'm at a loss for what to do next. Story 22. There are millions of middle managers in corporate America whose primary role has been to serve as a visible presence for higher-ups, providing a sense of importance through their subordination. However, with a shift to remote work, these individuals have lost their purpose since they no longer interact with their superiors in person. Many lack marketable skills, relying instead on integrating themselves and delegating actual work to subordinates. If remote work continues, the careers of these middle managers, skilled only in flattery, will face harsh realities as they struggle to adapt to a virtual environment or even operate basic technology. We may soon find ourselves with an influx of middle managers lacking real-world experience or valuable skills, wandering aimlessly as they search for opportunities to reconnect with their previous cushy positions. We must consider the implications for the job market. If remote work persists, we face the possibility of having unqualified individuals who possess fewer skills than an average teenager. Do we want these untrained workers struggling to make ends meet while trying to afford homes and cars and meager salaries? Story 23. In my office job, I found that my interactions with coworkers were minimal. Most of my workdays were spent in focused solitude, often with my headphones on, immersing myself in tasks and leaving the office without engaging in conversation. This setup suited me well, as I'm naturally introverted and prefer to concentrate on my work without distractions. However, I also appreciated the office environment as an opportunity to break away from my home routine. This was particularly valuable during Wisconsin's long winter months, when outdoor activities are scarce and the cold can make staying inside feel even more confining. Many options for socializing are limited during this time, often revolving around drinking, which isn't something I wanted to rely on. When 2020 struck, my work situation shifted significantly. I began a routine of working 3 days from home and 2 days in the office, which seemed like a manageable balance. However, after I contracted infection, I decided to cease my office visits entirely for health reasons. As a caretaker for a sick parent, being home every day has started to feel overwhelming. The home environment, once a place of comfort, has transformed into a space that amplifies my responsibilities. It used to be that going to the office provided a necessary break from my caregiving duties, allowing me to momentarily shift my focus and responsibilities. Now, however, that escape is gone, and I often find myself longing for the break that the office provided. Interestingly, this experience seems to be overlooked in conversations about remote work. Many people discuss the convenience or drawbacks of working from home, but few mention the psychological impact of constant proximity to personal responsibilities. This lack of separation has taken a toll on my health, leading to increased stress levels. To cope with these heightened emotions, I've developed a psychological dependence on substance, using it as a means to manage my anxiety and stress. It's a complicated situation, one that I navigate daily, trying to find balance amidst the responsibilities that come with caring for a loved one while also managing my own well-being. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.